When you think about it, how do we really know someone from way, way back in the past? Especially when they're not just a historical figure, but a legend. It's a massive puzzle for historians. Well, today, we're going to look at one historian's really cool way of tackling that exact problem.
Right? So how do you actually do that? I mean, when someone is so beloved, so revered, that the stories about them start sounding more like myths, how on earth do you find the person hiding inside all that legend?
It's kind of wild when you think about it. The very devotion that keeps someone's memory alive for centuries, that's the same thing that can end up hiding the real, actual person from us. It's like it builds this wall of myth that becomes almost impossible to see through.
Okay, so this is where a historian named Professor S. Raza Zaidi enters the picture. His book, which is called Mirror of History, gives us a really fascinating solution to this whole dilemma. It's all about finding a way to see the past in a completely new light.
And look, Professor Zaidi didn't pick an easy subject. He took on a truly monumental task. His focus was Imam Ali, who, as you know, is an absolutely central figure in Islamic history. And the stories surrounding him, they totally blur that line between what's historical fact and what's devotional legend.
So how did he even begin to tackle this? Well, his whole approach started with him setting some really clear ground rules for himself as a historian. He basically established his intellectual stance before he even put pen to paper.
The absolute cornerstone of his method was to deliberately set aside what's known as Aqidah. Now, Aqidah is essentially your devotion or creed, your framework of faith-based belief. And for a historian writing about a major religious figure, deciding to do that, wow, that's a huge deal. It meant he was committed to looking at the sources not as scripture, but purely as historical documents.
And you can see this so clearly in his own words. He's making it plain. He's not coming at this as a promoter of any sect. He's just a human being looking at the life of another human being. That, right there, that's the bedrock of his entire approach.
And this wasn't just some feeling he had, This stance was backed up by some seriously rigorous research. He dove into everything. We're talking early Islamic historians, Ali's own writings in Nahj al-Balagha, and he even consulted Western historians like Gibbon and H.G. Wells and foundational figures like Ibn Khaldun. By pulling from such a huge range of sources, he could start to build a much more complete picture.
So when you put it all together, setting aside the Aqidah, using all these different sources, it all led him to one crucial decision. He was going to write about Ali the man, not Ali the myth.
And you can really see that contrast play out here. On one side, you've got the legend, right? The mythological view. Stories of covering hundreds of miles in the blink of an eye, bringing people back from the dead. Just totally superhuman stuff. But then, on the other side, you have Zaidi'S historical view. A man who lived like a human being, who never claimed to be above human failings. A real, fallible person. And Zaidi himself just says it so perfectly. He wanted to see Ali in his human life and actions. He felt that Ali is Ali because he's a human being, not some superhuman. And that's such a powerful idea, right? That maybe turning him into a superhero actually takes away from his real human achievements.
But here's the thing. This wasn't some dry academic textbook. Not at all. A huge part of what makes Zaidi'S work so powerful and so readable is the way he tells the story.
Okay, so for example, just listen to how the book opens. It doesn't start with a long preamble. Nope, it drops you right into the middle of a really vivid scene. A young Ali is watching as the Prophet Muhammad is being taunted by a crowd of kids throwing slush and stones at him.
And then, bam, you get this. He charged like a tiger and gave a boy such a powerful box on the nose that it started bleeding profusely. And just like that, the street was clear. I mean, come on. That's not distant, abstract history, is it? It's immediate. It's almost cinematic. It just puts you right there in the thick of it. And this really gets to the heart of it. His son, Uruj, talks about this, how his father had this unusual gift for storytelling. He could be both simple and direct, but still capture the absolute grandeur of the story. It's what makes the past feel totally alive.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. Why does any of this matter? I mean, why is it so important to think about how we tell these old stories? Well, it goes way beyond just getting the facts right.
The author's grandson, Sharik, makes this just brilliant point. He says these debates about the past are never really just about the past. They're about the present. Because if you want to change how people see the present and the future, you've got to start by changing how they see the past.
And that really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it?
Professor Zaidi held up this new mirror to one massive figure from history, trying to find the real person inside the legend. And it really makes you wonder, what other parts of our history, what other stories or figures do we need to hold a new mirror up to today?